Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Sarah Kells, and I am one of the undergraduate admissions representatives for K-State Online. I'm so glad that you could take the time out of your busy night to learn more about our elementary education bachelor program. Here tonight, I have Dr. Lori Levine and Michelle Martinez from our elementary education department, and they'll be, going through talking more about the program, what all it entails, and then we will also go ahead and towards the end and take some questions. So yeah, the agenda for tonight is about 30 to 45 minutes. Usually it's around 30 minutes for the presentation. And then the last 10 to 15 minutes will be for questions. But if everyone could find and locate the chat and just tell us where you're from, what state, if you're a transfer student, just a little bit about yourself. So that way we can learn more about who's here tonight. And that's also where you'll use to ask questions towards the end. And you'll also ask questions throughout the program, and we'll answer what we can. For those questions that we can't, we might save some of them for the end. Oh, we got someone from Kansas City transferring from KCKCC.
Terrific. Well, while you're writing in the chat, I'll go ahead and get us started. So my name is Lori Levine, and I am the coordinator for the Bachelor of Science Online in Elementary Education. So we have a pretty amazing program. We have participants in this program from all walks of life. We have paraprofessionals that have decided to get a degree in elementary education that may be transferring credits from a community college or other institution. We have incoming freshmen that are just starting a 4-year program with no college credits whatsoever. We have people spread across the United States and even across the globe. Currently, I have a student that's in Switzerland and two in Germany. And then I have students in probably about 14 different states this semester. So people come from far and wide. I have 2 from Massachusetts right now in the program. And it allows you to come to us from wherever you are and ultimately get to student teach and do your field experiences in your own home community. So basically this program allows you to reach your goal of being an elementary licensed teacher and get you licensure into the classroom. Basically, you complete all of your classes online, 100%, and you complete a field experience in an elementary school of your choosing in your home community. So how long does it take to complete a degree in elementary education online? Michelle, do you want to answer this question?
Yes, kind of depends on individual students. So based on some of the information I'm seeing in the chat here, we have a couple of students from community colleges. So it isn't uncommon for students to spend a couple of years at the community colleges doing the general education requirements. So if your general education requirements match up really closely with the requirements for the elementary ed degree, you can transfer to the College of Education at K-State and start in what we call the professional program, and it can be 2 more years after that. We really encourage our students to apply as soon as you can and get your transcript sent, and that way we can make contact with you early and help you start planning.
Great. So how do we know which classes will transfer from community college?
K-State has a wonderful website. It's a transfer equivalency. So if, for example, you're coming from Kansas City, Kansas Community College, you can just follow this link and you can pick the school that you're coming from. And if you want to select by program, you can search by program and look under College of Education Elementary Ed program. And then you can do a report, and it'll give you a report of the classes that will transfer from your institution to K-State's program. The other option is you can look by individual courses. So maybe you've taken a science class and you want to know if it'll transfer to K-State and maybe what it'll transfer as. You can do it individually by course too. So it's really handy, and it's really easy to use too.
That's awesome. Would you put that link into the chat for us? And I'm just looking at this picture, and this is one of my former students from, several years ago. And he was actually a Horizon teacher, which is an honor given to extraordinary first-year teachers in the state of Kansas. Okay, so how is the KSU portion of the curriculum organized? So basically we follow a community learning model. So our students come in and they are pretty much part of a cohort, and they progress through the program one semester at a time. So they get pretty familiar with the students that are at the same phase in the program, and they form nice relationships, even though they're all distance students, which is nice that you have friends and a support network built in. So students that have prerequisite coursework can start the professional program. That starts in fall, and that allows you to complete the program in just 4 semesters over 2 years. If you have extra credit needs beyond those basically 60 credits that you would take in the last 2 years of the program, then you would have additional time. But generally with some summer work and those 4 semesters, students get done, in that 2-year time frame. So you work closely with your instructors and me, the program coordinator, to ensure your success. And we have a very, very high graduation rate for students that are admitted to the professional program. Most every student that has been with me has actually graduated with their degree in elementary education. So how do students complete their field experience? Well, like I said before, you get to pick an elementary school of your choosing. We ask students to complete a placement form, and they can select their top 3 choices in terms of districts and individual schools. And then we have a field experiences coordinator that will actually do the placements and get you into your home community, into a school at a grade level that you pick for 3 different or 4 different practicum experiences throughout those 2 years. So we use video observation. Most students use an iPhone or a tablet, and they record their videos, and we upload those to a secure cloud. And that allows both real-time and recorded observations of your teaching, so that you get timely feedback and you can set goals to grow and improve based on your strengths. Di, can a student get a teaching license in other states?
You certainly can get a teaching license in other states. Typically what we ask is, since you're completing a program that's approved by the state of Kansas, we'd like you, it's typically easiest to get your Kansas teaching license first. And then once you've got your Kansas teaching license, it's much easier to get licensed in other states. For example, Missouri, if you're planning to go to Missouri, they will look to see if you have a Kansas teaching license. If you've got that, they're happy campers, and it transfers right through. Nebraska will probably have you take a couple different tests. Colorado, depending, right now, I think there's 1 test that you take to go to Colorado, but typically if you have that Kansas license, it's going to make your life much easier as you go to transfer in the future.
So can you talk a little bit about which tests are required for that teaching license?
I can talk about that. You need 2 tests to be licensed in the state of Kansas. One is a pedagogy test on how do you teach, just your basics on educational psychology, learning theory, that type of thing. pretty much for your first semester, your block A classes are going to prepare you for everything you need to know for that the PLT, the Principles of Learning and Teaching test. And then the second test that you need in Kansas is the Content Knowledge for Teachers. What this test is it's a test over reading, writing, math, and social studies. And it's going to ask you questions about if you're teaching math and the student asks this, what do you think, what do you think he needs to learn differently? It's not going to ask you if you know math. It's going to ask if you know how to teach math. It's a content test, and our students are really good at passing these tests. We do an excellent job of teaching the content that's needed for you to be a good teacher, and that's the content that is in these tests. You can take these tests any place across the United States. Even I've got a person in Japan taking one too, so they're widely available, and that's the tests you need.
Great. Okay, I
And
didn't advance fast enough. That kind of covers some of
Yep.
what you said.
Yep. Yeah, they will also require a background check and fingerprinting. They do a KBI and an FBI background check. And so there's a bit of a charge for all of that, but that's to be expected.
Great. Yeah, and you'll get from your advisor lots of information about this and reminders of the schedule of when you need to complete all of these requirements.
Oh,
So, Michelle, do you want to talk about scholarships or financial aid?
Yes, I can talk about some of the ones that are on the screen here. So if, like Sarah has put in the chat there, she said to go ahead and apply. And the same thing applies to your financial aid. The wonderful thing at K-State is everyone, once you apply and get accepted, you get assigned a financial aid advisor. So this person will be a wonderful resource for you when you are in that transfer process and getting some questions answered. So the most important thing, like right now, the FAFSA for the next academic year is open. So we recommend that students get that done sooner rather than later. The later you wait until the spring, you could miss out on opportunities for scholarships. So if you could start working on that and get that done. Sarah, do you have the priority date for K-State? Is that November 1st?
For financial aid?
Yes, for the FAFSA.
I believe it is November 1st.
Mhm.
And then I believe that I think it's open for the next annual year on October 1st, if I remember right. So that should be out.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can start working on that and get that done. And then doing that, it helps financial aid be able to determine what you qualify for. So one of the grants available to students, and this is a federal grant through the federal government, it's called the Teach Grant. So if you Google Teach Grant through the U.S. Department of Education, you can find out more information about this grant. It's not too difficult to get. It just requires some paperwork, and there's a person at K-State's financial aid office that you have to work with. So if you're interested in this, you can certainly ask me, and I'll refer you to the person that you need to speak to. And then if you are a Kansas resident, the Kansas Board of Regents has a scholarship called the Kansas Teacher Service Scholarship. You can apply for that, and the deadline for that is priority deadline for that is May 1st. So you still have plenty of time to apply for that one. They usually give preference to upperclassmen. So if you're a student who has maybe 60 or more hours, and you have 2.8, 2.9 and above GPA, I think you're probably a good candidate for it. So, but it doesn't hurt to apply. And like I said, the important thing with the Teach Grant and the Kansas Teacher Service Scholarship is you do have to have that FAFSA filled out first. And then later on, as you are transitioning out of the program, in Kansas, we have something called rural opportunity zones. And so these are opportunities for tax breaks and maybe possibly some loan forgiveness, depending on where you teach in the state. Possibly in the Kansas City, Kansas school district, there might be some incentives for that. And then also through the federal government, there are some loan forgiveness options. And so it's a lot of information, so it's really important. Like I said, you'll have a financial aid advisor once you get admitted to K-State. And so between all of us, we kind of help you keep track of some of these things, but we always refer you to that person to make sure you're getting, correct information.
Thank you. So Michelle, do you want to talk about this too? This is
the graduation plan.
About newly admitted students, just basically what happens when you get admitted.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I couldn't see that screen.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Yes. So what happens when you get admitted? We get your transcripts and an evaluation is completed. Di Murphy, who's in the webinar tonight, she will do the evaluation, and then I will contact you. And we usually meet by Zoom or phone call, and we'll go over that evaluation with you. And we can kind of talk about, some of your goals and some of the things that you have going on, so I can get a better understanding of some of your needs. And then with every one of my advisees in the program, I make a suggested plan for them. And I call it suggested because I do this plan. I map out the classes that you need and in the order that they're required for our program, in order for students to try to stay on track as well as possible. And I give this to a student as a guide. And so you can use this in your planning process through the program.
Great. So this is just some information about how you would prepare to be admitted to what we call the professional program, which is the final 4 semesters.
Yeah. So as a transfer student, we have requirements that we want you to meet ahead of time. Can you take some of these requirements at K-State? Yes. If you are wanting to get into what we call the professional program, we do need you to take English 100 and 200. Those will be your writing classes, public speaking, college algebra, and statistics. We need those classes completed with C's or better. And then we do have a 2.75 GPA requirement. If you have questions about how that GPA is figured, once you apply and we do the evaluation, that's something that I can look at and talk with you about GPA if you have questions about that. It's a little bit tricky to figure as a transfer student, so we certainly can help with that. And then we need a copy of your an ACT or an SAT if you have it. It does not have to be an official report from ACT or SAT, because we know that costs money. So we're completely fine if you want to send us a copy of just a screenshot of one of those scores. If you don't have a score, ACT or SAT score, we can talk about that as well when we talk about your evaluation. And then when you have most of the requirements met for your general education classes, and then the other classes listed above that I spoke of, you make formal application to what we call the professional program. The professional program, the next start date for the professional program is fall of 22. So if you have a lot of the general education requirements and the classes that I mentioned above there completed, you should be on track to start the professional program in the fall of 22. But once again, we keep saying, just make sure you apply and get your transcripts in so we can have those conversations early.
Great. So this is what the professional program looks like. So like Michelle said, you would start block A in fall, and that would be fall of 22 right now. And you would take a core teaching class, an ed psych, and an ed tech course. Then from block A, you move into spring block B, and that's where you get literacy and science methods. And of course, in classroom assessment, it's accompanied by a practicum where you spend approximately 45 hours in an elementary classroom. And you also then move into block C, and block C and student teaching are concurrent, and I'll talk a little bit more about that here on the next slide. So when I say they're concurrent, basically we have these final 2 semesters. So this would be block C, an internship, and block C, an internship fall and spring of your second year. We have a kind of a very innovative year-long elementary student teaching apprenticeship. And that allows you a lot of flexibility. And that's what students say is the main benefit of doing the year-long student teaching. It gives them flexibility. You get to teach in your home community, and you get to spread your typical block C coursework over 2 semesters. So it lightens the coursework load. Everything again is online. You get immersion in your classroom for a whole school year. You get to see the beginning of the school year all the way through to the end of the school year with your same group of kids. While you're student teaching, you get a lot of support from an excellent mentor teacher over 2 semesters. And that flexible half-day scheduling allows you to fit the apprenticeship into your life and situation, meaning that many students will work as paraprofessionals in the very same building where they are student teaching. So a typical student teaching day would be 4 hours in the student teaching classroom. And that could be from 8 in the morning until noon, and that frees up the afternoon hours for working in the building or elsewhere. I've had students that work as paraprofessionals. I've had students that do substituting the second half of the school day outside of student teaching, and I've had students that work in their community at other jobs as well. It allows room for caring for families. It allows a lot of room for just flexibility. If you have other obligations throughout the day, you're in the classroom half days, and students really, really appreciate that. We do have a full service career center at K-State. It's excellent, and they have tons of resources and help building resumes. They have virtual job fairs that you can participate in from anywhere around the world, and meet with school districts and administrators and interview right there virtually. So it's pretty tremendous, the full range of services, and they continue to provide career services even after you graduate, which is a really nice benefit. This is a quote from actually a recent graduate of the program. This individual graduated in May of 2021 and is actually student teaching in Kansas City, or was student teaching in Kansas City, and is now teaching in Olathe, I believe. So they just wrote to me out of the blue. They sent me this email and said, I don't know if you've received much feedback about it, but doing this year-long apprenticeship has been the best decision I could have made. I love that we can be with the kids every day and have the opportunity to work for the entire school year. I also have been switching each week between coming for the first part of the day and the last part of the day. This way I get to see what the entire day looks like. I've stayed full days a few times and have the opportunity to greet them and say goodbye. I've loved the way my teacher and I set this up because I get the opportunity to see and teach every subject. The K-State course load is much lighter since it is split up, which is very nice. This makes it easier to prioritize my time student teaching with the opportunity for extra free time. What a money lifesaver this program is too. I highly, highly, highly recommend doing the year-long program for anyone that is curious. They will not regret it. I just love that. She sums it up so perfectly, all of the benefits of being an online student at K-State in elementary education. So Sarah,
That is so great. I love that.
Me too.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and invite anyone to put into the chat their final questions while I go through this last slide. So if you're ready to apply, I would apply right away. Di had mentioned earlier that, if someone had asked when should they apply, you can apply now and they can help you plan through the spring semester to make your transfer in the fall easier if that's a goal of yours. So I did include the how to apply page earlier. So definitely click on that and find the appropriate application. January 1st is the application deadline for our spring 2022 semester, and the first day of classes are on January 18th, just after Martin Luther King Day. By that January 1st deadline, there are 3 parts to your application that we need: your online application, the application fee, and any official transcripts from previous colleges. We need all of those by that deadline. The sooner the better. Our admissions office always tells us that processing applications can take up to 6 weeks. So the sooner that you get everything in, the sooner you can hear back, and then the sooner we can get you enrolled in classes. If you're looking at maybe the summer semester, May 1st is the application deadline. And then some of you are looking at the fall semester, and August 1st is that deadline. We are recording tonight's webinar, so we'll have that ready and we'll be sending it out to everyone who registered in about 7 business days. So look out for that. You'll also be able to see the chat with all the links. So that is something you can always look over. And just as a thank you for attending and registering tonight, we are going to be awarding everyone a application fee waiver. So that $40 fee that you would pay can be waived. You would just need to, for either the spring or the summer semester, for this fiscal year, if you're planning to apply to either of those semesters, you would just need to email me. My email's on the next page. There we go, at online@ksu.edu, and I'd be happy to also answer any questions about the application process and applying that fee waiver.
Can I answer the question about special ed?
Great.
Yes. Good.
Yeah. Okay, we do not have a minor in special ed the way that our special ed program is set up, though. Depending on what you have completed as you transfer in, we may be able to use some of those special ed classes towards your bachelor's degree. If you've got enough electives, we'll use the special ed classes towards a master's degree. If you can complete 3 of those special ed classes, 3 specific special ed classes before your student teaching year, we could set it up so that you do the year-long student teaching, but in the spring semester, you spend a half a day in the elementary classroom, a half a day in the special ed classroom doing the special ed practicum, and you would graduate with what the state calls a provisional endorsement in special ed, along with your elementary ed license. This would allow you to teach in your own special ed classroom at the end, or at the end of that time as you graduate. You'd have the initial license in elementary ed as well as a provisional license in special ed. If you don't have the time to get all of 3 of those classes done before you student teach, those classes are offered online. You can pick them up in the summer, and we can talk a lot more in depth about how we can get you licensed to teach special ed by that next fall semester. Did that kind of answer your questions?
I learned something.
Yeah.
Well, good.
I'm going to keep that in mind.
There was also a question in there about para pathways. Di, do you want to address that one as well?
It's not, our program isn't set up as a specific para pathway, but pretty much does, I'm not an expert in all of those, but it pretty much does the para pathway. The way we are doing this, it allows you to continue to work as a para as you're picking up your program. With Block A and Block B, your first year in the professional program, there's plenty of time to work as a para. We can use the field experiences at that school. We can make that work. And as they were talking, as Lori was talking about the year-long apprenticeship program, we've got several people that are working half days para, half day student teacher.
Great, thanks, Di. Any other questions? Be sure to put them in the chat. Go ahead, Michelle.
I didn't have anything.
Oh.
I am looking at Casey. I would be happy to talk with you. We could set up an appointment later this week or something. I'm putting my email address in the chat box there for you. Just send me an email and we can set up a time to talk, because yeah, it gets complicated. It depends so much on your situation, how many classes you've got completed, where you're at in all of this, and we can figure out how to make this work best into your world.
Well, I'm not seeing any other questions. So I'm just going to go ahead and say thank you so much, everyone, for coming tonight. And thank you so much to everyone, Di, Lori, Michelle, thanks so much for joining us. And if anyone comes up with any questions or thinks of anything afterward, feel free to email me. I'm going to go ahead and put the online email in again. And if it's something that I can't answer, then I can always have one of these lovely ladies help me out. But
sounds great.
Yep. And that's also, again, where you can email if you want to go ahead and apply. I'm, again, happy to help you with the fee waiver and answer any other questions.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for organizing. And thank you, those of you that attended. I hope I get to see you again sometime soon in one of my classes.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank
Good
you.
night.
You're welcome. Thank you for attending.
Bye-bye.